So here you're trying to say, see, this outer loop is for numbers, and there is an inner loop where I said I equal to 1 and count is 0. Why count is 0? Because if you see this, okay, if you see this, so every time we are reading a number and you are finding, is it that number is a prime number or not? Every time you are reading a number and you are finding that number is prime number or not. So here the value of m is given 5 and the value of n is given what? 10. So this is m value and this is what here? N value. So you have to debug like this. The value of m is 5, the value of n is 10. So first I have to check, is it 5 is less than 10? Yes. Then I have to find out whether this number is a prime number or not. So this is a value of I and this is a value of count. So what is the value of number now? 5. Now you have to divide 5 with 1. Okay, you have to divide 5 with the 2 and you have to divide 5 with the 3 and you have to divide 5 with the 4 and you have to divide 5 with what is that? 5. You are dividing this 5 with a 1 to 5. Okay. So if the number of factors are 2, if the number of factors are 2, how many times it is divisible? 2 times. Now you are dividing from 1 to number. The value of I is 1 and the value of count is what here? 0. So is it 1 is less than or equal to 5? Yes. So 5 mod 1. 5 mod 1 remainder 0? Yes. Then here I'll say, after this I'll say I equal to I plus 1. I'm saying here I equal to I plus 1. So the value of I becomes what here? 2. Is it 2 is less than or equal to 5? Yes. Then 5 divided by 2, is it remainder is 0? No. The next I is I plus 1 means 3. Is it 3 is less than or equal to 5? Yes. 5 mod 3 equal to 0? No. Then I is I plus 1 means it becomes 4. Is it 4 is less than or equal to 5? No. Yes. 4 is less than or equal to 5. 5 mod 4. Is it equal to 0? No. Then I is I plus 1. It becomes 5. Is it 5 is less than or equal to 5? Yes. Then 5 mod 5 remainder is 0? Yes. I is I plus 1 means the value of I becomes 6. Is it 6 is less than or equal to 5? No. Condition is a false. When the condition is a false, here you will try to check if count is 2. If count is 2, you are trying to print that number. So what is the number here? M. Is it 5 is a prime number or not? Yes. Then next you will say m equal to m plus 1. M equal to m plus 1 means the value of m becomes what? 6. Now 6 is less than or equal to 5. Yes. Again you will be checking it whether it is prime number or not. Then m equal to m plus 1 means 7. Again you are checking it, is it 7 is prime number or not. Then m value will be 8. Is it 8 is less than or equal to 10? Yes. Again you are checking. It means you are repeating this prime number logic how many times? You are repeating this prime number logic how many times? Until m is less than or equal to n. You are repeating this prime number logic how many times? Until m is less than or equal to n. If the value of m is greater than n, it will stop. Until m is less than or equal to n. If the value of m is greater than n, it will stop. If the value of m is greater than n, it will stop. Okay. So here I'll say I is I plus 1. And if now here if count is a 2, I'm saying print format number is m is okay, m is which number here? Prime number. Then m equal to m plus 1. M equal to m plus 1. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to increment the value of m. So once you run this, the value of m is 5, the value of n is 10. So how many second one is 7. I try to execute again. The value of m is 5, the value of n is 20. So how many prime numbers are there? 5 to 20 is 5, 7, 11, 13, 79, 19. You are repeating one logic number of times. You are repeating one logic how many times? Number of times by writing a looping statements inside, by writing a looping statement inside a looping statement. So that you can call it as nested looping statements. So that can be nested while, or that can be nested for also. This is what here nested while. This is nested while. This is nested while. The way how you are writing nested while, you can also work with the nested for. For example, I'll tell you one more example on this. So write a program to print factorials of all the numbers, factorials of all the numbers from m to n. Again, I want to print factorials of all the numbers. I want to print factorials of all the numbers from m to n. I want to print factorials of all the numbers from m to n. For example, I input the value of m is some 2 and the value of n is some 5. The value of m is 2 and the value of n is 5. So what I have to do? I have to print 2 factorial, 3 factorial, 4 factorial and 5 factorial. So 2 factorial is 2 and 3 factorial is 6 and 4 factorial is 24 and 5 factorial is some 120. So here this is a value of m and this is a value of n. So what you have to do? Now you have to input how many values? 2 values. So read the value of, now can I read both the values in one line or not? Yes, m comma n equal to map of integer comma input dot what is that? Split. Input I can write here a message. I can write a message m comma n equal to map of integer comma input, enter the values of m comma n dot split. Now you are trying to split it what here? Space. Dot split. You are trying to split it what here? Space. So input, enter the values of m comma n. M comma n. So m is a starting value and n is what? Ending value, right? Then after that, you are saying while m is less than or equal to n. So is it 2 is less than or equal to 5? Yes. Okay. Then I have to find out the factorial of which number? 2. Then I'll say here factorial equal to 1, factorial equal to 1 and I equal to 1. And while I is less than or equal to m, means you are multiplying all the numbers from 1 to m. So factorial is factorial into I. Then I'm saying I equal to I plus 1. And print factorial of factorial of factorial of m is fact. Then I try to close this. Yes, m equal to m plus 1. Now just see it. See, the outer loop is for reading numbers. The outer loop is for reading numbers, and outer loop is for reading numbers. Outer loop is for reading numbers, and inner loop is for finding the factorial for that number. Now 2 factorial is 2, and 3 factorial is 6, and 4 factorial is 24, and 5 factorial is what? 120. See, this is the outer loop. Outer loop is for reading numbers. What is the use of outer loop here? Reading numbers. Outer loop is for reading numbers. You're saying while m is less than or equal to n. So what is the value of m and n? Okay, this is value of m and this is value of what? N. So the value of m is given 2, the value of n is given 5. So this loop is for generating numbers from 2 to 5. Is it 2 is less than or equal to 5? Yes. Now you are finding the factorial for which one? 2. For finding the factorial, initially I taken the value of factorial is what? 1. And the value of I is taken what? 1. So what is the value of m here? 2. Is nothing but 1 into 2. The result should be what here? 2. If the m is 3, then 1 into 2 into 3. If the m is 4, 1 into 2 into 3 into 4. Okay, if m is 5, then 1 into 2 into 3 into 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into what? 5. Like this. So you are multiplying all the numbers and you are getting which one? Product of it. You are multiplying all the numbers and you are getting the product of it. Okay. Yes. Just try to understand this. Okay. Now the value of I is 1. Is it 1 is less than or equal to 2? Yes. So 1 into 1 is 1. I is I plus 1 means 2. So this is 1. Now 2 is less than or equal to 2. Yes. 2 into 1 is a 2. I is I plus 1 means it becomes 3. Is it 3 is less than or equal to 2? No. Condition is what here? False. Now this logic is finding the factorial. See, everything is the same. You are repeating this factorial logic how many times? You are repeating this factorial logic how many times? N times. From m to n means from 2 to 5, every time you are reading a number and you are finding the factorial. Second number is a 3 and then you are finding the factorial. Next number is 4. Then you are finding the factorial. Next number is what? 5. Then you are finding the factorial. Next number is what? 6. Is it 6 is less than or equal to 5? No. It will stop. Is it 6 is less than or equal to 5? No, it will stop. Right? So you are reading every time. Yes. I try to input. The value of m is 2 and the value of n is 8. Now you can see factorial for all the numbers from 2 to 8. So if you want some logic to be repeated number of times, you are repeating that logic number of times, writing a looping statement inside a looping statement. The simple example is like this. Suppose, assume that simple example is, for example, I want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 using while loop, how you print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? You'll say number equal to 1, while number is less than or equal to 5. And print number and number equal to number plus 1. So number equal to 1, and while number is less than or equal to 5, so print number and number equal to number plus 1. Print number and number equal to number plus 1. Once you run this, now you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now suppose I want to repeat this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to repeat this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5 times. I want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many times? 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. How many times I want to print this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5 times. Then this logic should be repeated how many times here? 5 times. Okay, now. So this is only printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I want to repeat this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 how many times? 5 times. Then this looping statement, you put inside another loop. You put this looping statement inside another looping statement. So where I'm saying I equal to 1 and while I is less than or equal to 5. So inside this, I write this logic because I want to repeat this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many times? 5 times. This is which loop here? Outer loop. And then inside one new line. If you run this, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is get repeated how many times? 5 times. Getting on. So if you want to repeat one loop, again number of times. If you want to repeat a loop number of times, then you write a looping statement inside a looping statement. And writing a looping statement inside a looping statement, so that you can call it as nested looping statements. So that can be nested while, that can be nested for, anything, right? That can be nested while or nested for or anything. Okay. So there is no rule like you have to solve only in this way. It can be solved by using nested for also. So this is a nested while, right? The way how you are using nested while, in the same way you can use what? Nested for loop. So what is a nested for loop is? You are writing a for loop inside a for loop inside for loop is called which one here? Nested for loop. If you are writing a for loop inside a for loop, then it's called nested for loop. So the syntax of for loop is, you'll say no for. Okay, what is the syntax of for? You'll write like this: for. Okay, for variable in. For variable in what? Iterable or collection, or what is that? Sequence. For variable in. For variable in. Iterable, collection or sequence. Then for variable in iterable, collection, for variable and iterable, collection, or what is that? Sequence. And here you are writing statements. Now this you can call it as which loop here? Outer loop. And this you can call it as which one? Inner loop. So this is outer loop and this is what here? Inner loop. So it's nothing but you are repeating this for loop. Okay, the content of the for loop is executed how many times? Until all the elements are read from collection. The content of for loop is executed how many times? Until the content of, until it read all the values from collection, or what is that? Sequence. Until it read all the elements from collection or what? Sequence. So those many number of times it will repeat the content of the loop or not? Yes. Those many number of times it will try to repeat the content of the loop. For example, if you see the same example, I want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to print again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how many times I'm printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5 times. Suppose if you want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, If you want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll say for number in a range of 1, comma 6. A range of 1, comma 6 means how many values it will generate? 5 values. 1, comma 6 means how many values it will generate? 5 values. 5 values it will generate. So print n value. Print n value. So print n value. So what will happen? It will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I want to repeat this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many times? 5 times. Then this for loop you repeat how many times? 5 times. So for okay I in range 1, comma 6. So inside the for loop I write another for loop. Now this for loop generate what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this logic you are repeating how many times? 5 times. This logic you are repeating how many times? 5 times. Now you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After printing each time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I want to insert one new line. After printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I want to insert one new line. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how many times it is printed? 5 times. So if you want to repeat one logic number of times, if you want to repeat one logic number of times, you are writing a statement. So you have to understand this, how this nested will work, but this is very much useful if you are working with matrices. Because if you see matrix contain rows and columns. And if you want to read rows and columns, every time you visit one row, and from that row, you'll try to visit which one? Column. You visit a row and that from that you visit the column. For example, I want to print like this. I want to print like this. So what I want to print is, I want to print some 1, 2, 3. Okay, I want to print like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 10. Then 2, 4, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, 12. Okay, 14, 16, 18, and 20. Then I want to print 3. Okay, 3, 6, 9, 3, 6, 9, 21, and 15. Okay, like this. This is, if you see this, what you're trying to print here, what you're trying to print, this is which table? This is which table? First table. This is which table? 1, first table. And this is which table? Second table. And this is which table? Third table. Then I want to print all the tables. I want to print all the tables from 1 to, I want to print all the tables from 1 to 10. So you are reading each time number and you are multiplying how many times? 10 times. First you are reading 1 and you are multiplying how many times? 10 times. Next you are reading 2 and you are multiplying how many times? 10 times. Next you are reading a 3 and multiplying how many times? 10 times. Next you are reading a 4 and multiplying how many times? 10 times. And next you are reading a 5 and multiplying how many times? 10 times. So every time you are reading one number, for number in range 1, comma 11. This for loop is execute how many times? 10 times. So it will generate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and next value is what? 10. What is the first value in the range? 1. Then you have to multiply this 1 how many times? What is the number? 1. You have to multiply this number how many times? 10 times. You have to multiply this number how many times? 10 times. For I in range I comma 1 comma 11. So this for loop is execute how many times? 10 times. So print number into what? I. Number into I. Okay. So after printing that, I insert one new line. Okay. So every time it will read one number and multiply that number. Every time it will read one number and multiply that number how many times? 10 times. So this is first table, this is second table, and this is third table, and this is fourth table. If you want some tab space, you can give tab space. This is a tab space. This is the first table, this is a second table, this is a third table. Every time you are reading one number and multiplying that number how many times? 10 times. If you want, you can use format. Okay, format. Format, what is that? Number into I. And this value I want to display with 3D. 3D is nothing but 3 width. So what is the width of the result? 3. What is the width of the result here? 3. How many digits width here? 3 digits width. So what is the width of the number here? 3. What is the width of the number here? 3. But my number width is what? 1. Then remaining 2 are what? Spaces. What is the width of the number? 1. Remaining 2 are what? Spaces. What is the width of the number? 1. Remaining 2 are what? Spaces. What is the width of the number? 1. Remaining 2 are what? Spaces. What is the width of the number here? 2. Remaining 1 is what? Space. What is the width of the number here? 3. But can you see any space here? No. So we are trying to display the result with the width of how much here? 3. We are trying to display the result with the width of 3. But what we are doing here, we are reading one number and multiplying that number how many times? 10 times. So the outer loop is for reading a number and inner loop is for multiplying that number how many times? 10 times. So reading one number and multiplying how many times? 10 times. Reading one number and multiplying how many times? 10 times. Reading a number and multiplying how many times here again? 10 times. So every time you are reading one number using outer loop and multiplying that number how many times? 10 times by using which loop here? Inner loop. Okay. So nested, it can be nested while, it can be nested for. For example, see here. So all these are some logical questions. Just try to understand this. I want to write a program. Now this is printing patterns. I want to print one. I want to print 1 how many times? 5 times. And 2 how many times? 5 times. 3 how many times? 5 times. 4 how many times? 5 times. 5 how many times? 5 times. Okay. 1 should be repeated how many times? 5 times. 2 should be repeated how many times? 5 times. And 3 should be repeated how many times? 5 times. And 4 should be repeated how many times? 5 times. And 5 should be repeated how many times? 5 times. Yes. Just try to understand this. Now, whenever this kind of problems are given, first you try to divide this into number of rows and columns. Number of rows and columns. Okay. Now here, in the result, either you print row value or column value. In the result, you print either row value. Inside the result, you print either row value or you print which value? Column value. Inside the result, you print either row value or column value. For example, row value is I. The value of I is 1. How many rows are there? How many rows are there? How many rows are there? 5 rows are there. The value of I starts from 1 to, what is that? 5. 1 to 5. Okay. So total how many rows are there? 5 rows. In each row, how many columns are there? 5 columns. So the value of j is 1 and this is 2, this is 3, this is 4 and this is 5. Now in each column, you are printing column value or row value? Row value. So first row, first column, 1. First row, second column, 1. First row, third column, 1. First row, fourth column, 1. First row, fifth column, 1. Okay, now second row, first column, 2. Second row, second column. So what you are printing here? Row values. In each column, you are printing row values. But how you print this? Now you have to generate number of rows. How many rows are there? How many rows are there? 5 rows. Then you will say for in range of 1 comma 6. 1 comma 6 means it will generate how many values? 5 values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then in each row, how many columns are there? 5 columns. So inside the for, outer loop is for row, inner loop is for columns. Outer for loop is for row, inner for loop is for column. Each row is having how many columns? For j in range of 1 comma 6. Now in each column, you are printing which value? In each column, you are printing which value? Row value. Row value means I. Row value means what? I. And are you printing this value in the same line or not? Yes. And then after printing each row, insert one new line. So what is the value of I? 1. Okay, then this generate how many values? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will generate how many values? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is the value of I? 1. Then inside the loop, what is the value of j? 1. So 1, 1, you are printing 1. Next, j value is what here? 2. J value is 2. Again, you are printing what? 1. Next, j value is a 3. Again, you are printing what? 1. Next, j value is what? 4. Again, you are printing what? 1. Next, j value is what? 5. Again, you are printing what? 1. Then insert new line. Next, I value becomes what? 2. Next row, I is a 2. Then j value becomes what? 1. So print what here? 2. Next j value is a 2. Print what? 2. Next j value is a 3. Print what? 2. Next j value is a 4. Print what? 2. Next j value is a 5. Print what? 2. Now next I value becomes what here? 3. Then 3 is printed how many times? 5 times. Next I value becomes what? 4. And 4 is printed how many times? 5 times. Next I value becomes 5. 5 is printed how many times? 5 times. Now I is a row and here j is a I is a row and j is a columns. In this case, I is a row and j is a 5 times and 2 is also 5 times and 3 is a 5 times, like that. So this is printing some patterns, right? Now sometimes in technical they may ask you to print some patterns, right? For example, I want to print like this. I want to print 5 times Okay, 5 times, and 4 5 times, 3 5 times, and 2 5 times, and 1 5 times. So again, divide this into number of rows and columns. First, you divide this into number of rows and columns. Divide this into number of rows and columns. Number of rows and columns here. Divide this into number of rows and columns. So after this, this is row starts from where? Row starts from where? 5. I is 5, I is 4, I is a 3, and I is what? 2, and I is a 1. So you are printing, what you are printing? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I value starts with the 5. You repeat this 5. How many times? 5 times. Means how many columns? 5 columns. How many columns are there? 5 columns. So you are repeating row value how many times? 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tell me how to write the for loop. For I in range. 5 comma 5 comma 0 comma minus 1. 5 comma 0 comma minus 1 for j in range of 1 comma 6. 1 comma 6 and print which value? I value. Print I value and insert one new line. Right now, this is repeating this number of times. So once you run this, I can see 5 is repeated 5 times, 4 is repeated 4 times, and 3 is 5 times, and 2 is 5 times, and 1 is also 5 times. Suppose, for example, I want to print. So all these are logical programs. Nothing you do with this, but just to understand how these for loops are executed. So I want to print one. I want to print one time, and two times, and three times, and four times, and 5 how many times? 5 times. Then divide this into number of rows and columns. Divide this into number of rows and columns. So how many rows are there here? 5 rows. And how many columns are there? 5 columns are there. The number of rows are 5 and number of columns are 5. So the row is nothing but I is 1, and I is 2, and I is 3, and I is 4, and I is what here? 5. If the row is a 1, then how many columns here? 1 column. If the row is a 2, how many columns here? 2 columns. If the row is a 3, how many columns here? 3 columns. If the row is a 4, how many columns here? 4 columns. If the row is a 5, how many columns here? 5 columns. If the row is a 1, you are repeating 1 how many times? 5 times. If the row is a 2, you are repeating how many times? 5 times. Okay, you are repeating that how many times again? 5 times. So you have to understand this. Then tell me, what should I write? For in what? Range of 1 comma 6. So this will generate how many values? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then for jn range of what? Range of what? 1 comma I plus 1. 1 comma I plus 1. What is the value of I? 1. For jn range of 1 comma 2 means how many times loop is executed? One time. This loop is executed how many times? One time or I times. The value of I is a 2. Then this loop is executed how many times? 1 comma 3 means 2 times. The value of I is a 3. 1 comma 4 means 3 times. The value of I is a 4. 1 comma 4 means 1 comma 5 means 4 times. And the value of I is a 5. 1 comma 6 means 5 times. So you are repeating which value? I value. So print I value. So print what is that here? I value number of times. Okay, see 1 and 2, 2. Yes. Now I want to print. Yes. I want to print like this. I want to print 5. I want to print 5 times, and 4 times, and 3 times, and 2 times, and then 1. Then how many rows are there? 5 rows. How many columns are there? If the row is a 5 columns. If the row is a 4 columns. If the row is a 3 columns. If the row is a 2 columns. If the row is a 1 column. So the value of I is a 5. Then this is 4, and this is 3, and this is 2, and this is what here? 1. Then the column, the value of column starts with a 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. So when the value of columns is 5, if the value row is a 5, how many columns? 5 columns. If the row is a 4, how many columns? 4 columns. If the row is a 3, how many columns? 3 columns. If the row is a 2, how many columns? 2 columns. If the row is a 1, how many columns? 1 column. Then how you write it? Tell me here. For in range 5 comma 0 comma minus 1. Then for j in range of 1 comma what? I plus 1. For j in range of 1 comma I plus 1. If the value of I is 5, then this loop is executed how many times? 5 times. Because 1 comma 6 means what? 5. If the value of I is 4, 1 comma 5 means 4 times. If the value of I is a 3, 1 comma 4 means 3 times. Like that. Now print which value? I value. Print which value? I value. I value be printed. And after that, insert one new line. So what we can do is, yes. Now once you run this, now 5 is 5 times, and 4 is 4 times, and 3 is 3 times, and 2 is 2 times, and 1 is 1 time. In the place of this, you can also print what? Symbol. I print here star. So how many stars here? 5 stars, 4 stars, three stars, and then what? 2 stars. Now, first you repeated star 5 times and then 4 times. In the place of I, you can also write which one? I. You can also write I, right? Suppose I want to print like this. So what I want to print is, I want to print, yes, 1 and 1, 2 and 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to print like this. So how many rows are there? How many rows are there? 5 rows. How many columns are there? 5 columns. The number of rows are 5 and the number of columns also 5. 5 rows and 5 columns. 5 rows and 5 columns. The number of rows are 5 and the number of columns also 5. So the value of I is 1. See here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the number of rows are 5 and the value of I starts with the 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, and this value is a 4 and this value is a 5. What you are printing, suppose if the value of I is 1, you are printing 1. If the value of I is a 2, you are printing 1, 2. If the value of I is a 3, you are printing 1, 2, 3. You are printing row value or column value? Column value. If the row is 1, you are generating how many columns? 1 column. If the row is a 2, you are generating how many columns? 2 columns. If the row is a 3, you are generating how many columns? 3 columns. If the row is a 4, you are generating 4 columns. If the row is a 5, you are generating 5 columns. Tell me how to write. Row starts from for I in range of 1 comma 6. If the row is a 1, then how many columns? If the row is a 1, how many columns? 1 column. 1 column is 1 comma I plus 1. So 1 comma I plus 1 means 1 comma 2 is what? 1. 1 comma 2 means what? 1. Then here I am printing which value? J value. So print J value. Okay. Then next row becomes what? 2. Then J in range of 1 comma 3. 1 comma 3 means it will print 1 and 2. Next I value is a 3. That is 1 comma 4 means it will generate what? 1, 2, 3. Next I value is a 4. 1 comma 5 means 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. And next I value is a 5. 1 comma 6 means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After printing each column, I'm inserting what here? New line, right? So these are only logics, just to know the logics, but not printing anything like 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I want in reverse now. I want to print in reverse. I want to print in what? Reverse. I want to print in reverse means I want to print like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Then 1, 2. And then 1. Now tell me. I don't draw the rows columns. You tell me for I in range of 5 comma 0 comma minus 1. So here this is rows. You can take this as what here? Row values. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Columns are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Then next what you do for j in range of 1 comma I plus 1. That's all. So print which value? J value. So you are printing column and instead one new line. Instead one new line, right? That's it. So for I in range of what is this? 5 comma 0 comma minus 1. Okay. So I is nothing but row and j is nothing but columns. So once you run this, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 1. Okay. So whenever this kind of problems are given, you have to divide this into number of rows and columns. Suppose I want to print like this. I want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, then 3, 4, 5, then 4 and 5, then 5. So I want to print like this. Okay, divide this into number of rows and columns. So how many rows are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the value of row starts with what here? 1 and 2 and this is 3 and this is 4 and this is what here? 5. Okay. Now the value of column is when the value of column is greater than or equal to row. When the value of column is greater than or equal to row, you're printing it. You're printing which value? Column value. Is it 1 is greater than or equal to 1? Yes. 2 is greater than or equal to 1? Yes. 3 is greater than or equal to 1? Yes. 4 is greater than or equal to 1? Yes. 5 is greater than or equal to 1? Yes. Next I value is a 2 and column is what here? 1. Is it 1 is greater than or equal to 2? No. Print what? Space. Print what? Space. 2 is greater than or equal to 2? Yes. 3 is greater than or equal to 2? Yes. 4 is greater than or equal to 2? Yes. 5 is greater than or equal to 2? Yes. Then next is I is a 3 and j is a 1. 1 is greater than or equal to 3? No. 2 is greater than or equal to 3? No. 3 is greater than or equal to 3? Yes. 4 is greater than or equal to 3? Yes. 5 is greater than or equal to 3? Yes. So when you're printing column values, if column is greater than or equal to what? Row. If the value of column is greater than or equal to row, print which value? Column value. Otherwise print what? Otherwise print what? Space. Otherwise print what here? Space. You're printing spaces here. Otherwise you're trying to print what? Spaces. Okay. So you write like this for, tell me for in what? Range of 1 comma 6. For j in For j in range of 1 comma 6, the number of rows are 5, number of columns also 5. But here you are checking. If j is greater than or equal to what? I print which value? J value. Print j value. Otherwise, print what? Space. Print what? Space. Otherwise, print space. And in the same line, and after printing each row, insert one new line. After printing each row, insert one new line, right? This is the logic for this. Very simple. So you have to understand rows and columns. Indentation. Check the indentation. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. 4, 5. And one more is what? 5. Okay. Yes. So these examples just to understand how to work with the nested looping, how to work with the nested looping statements, how to work with nested looping statements. Now you have to understand how to work with the nested for and nested for and nested while. Nested for and nested while. Now 5, I want to print 4 and 5. I want to print 3, 4 and 5. Then 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then again, rows are 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rows is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And column is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then divide this into number of rows and columns. Divide this into number of rows and columns. Again, divide this into number of rows and columns, right? It is like this. So what is the value of 5? 5. And this is a 4. And this is a 3. And this is a 2. And this is a 1. And the value of column starts with a 1. And this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. Tell me, when should I print column value? Tell me, when should I print column value? When should I print? Again, same. Column is greater than or equal to row. 1 is greater than 5, no, space. 2 is greater than 5, space. 3 is greater than 5, space. 4 is greater than or equal to 5, space. But 5 is greater than or equal to 5, yes. Next column is 1. 1 is greater than or equal to 4, no. 2 is greater than or equal to 4, no. 3 is greater than or equal to 4, no. 4 is greater than or equal to 4, yes. 5 is greater than or equal to 4, yes. Next I value is a 3 and j is 1. 1 is greater than or equal to 3, no. 2 is greater than or equal to 3, no. But 3 is greater than or equal to 3, yes. 4 is greater than or equal to 3, yes. 5 is greater than or equal to 3, yes. So what is the, tell me, for I in range of 1 comma 5 comma 5 comma what? 0 comma minus 1. 5 comma 0 comma minus 1. And for j in range of 1 comma what? 5, 1 comma 6. What is my condition if j is greater than or equal to I print which value? J value. Print j value, otherwise print what? space. Print J value, otherwise print what? Space. Print the space. Print the space and insert one new line. So you are trying to insert a new line, right? So once you run this, see the indentation. Indentation should be checked first, right? So 5 is and 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Yes. So same thing, you can also print which one? In the place of n, what you can print? Stars. In the place of n or j value, you can also print which one? Star. So this is printing which one? Stars. A star and then star star, and yes, in the place of j, you can also print star values. So I want to print A and B, yes, A, B, and then A, B, C, then A, B, C, and D, and A, B, C, D, and what is that? E. Same. This is 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you need to take which value? ASCII value. For I in what? Range of 65, comma 70, 70. 65, comma 70. So 65, 66, 67, 68, and 69. Then for J in range of 65, comma I plus 65, comma I plus what? 1. So print J value or character of J value? Character of J value. Not J value, character of J value. Character of J value. So character of 65 is what? A. Character of 65 is A, right? Character of 65 is A. Now we run this. So A, AB, and ABC, and ABCD, and ABCD, and E. But you should not think about A, but ASCII value of A. What is the ASCII value? 65. If I don't write here character, if I'm writing only J, it will print 65, 65 and 66, and 65, 66 and 67, and 65. But I don't want to print ASCII values. I want to print which values? Character values. So to print character values, I'm trying to use which function? Character function. I'm using which function here? Character. So character values of this. Character values of this. Okay. Character of J. You're printing character of J. Okay. So you have to understand how to work with this, right? I'm writing some examples. Try to practice this. Okay, now 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3, 4, 5, then 4 and 5, and next one is what? 5. Okay. Then, so write 1 here. So this is 3 and 2, and this is 4, 3 and 2. Sorry. 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2. Somewhere missing. Oh. So 3, 2. Sorry. So this is 2 and 1, and 3, 2, 1, and this is 4, 3, 2, 1, and this is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? Then I want to print. So I want to print like this: 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I want to print 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15. So I want to print like this. Okay. Then I want to print 1 and 1, 0 and 1, 0, 1 and 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. So A, B, C, D, E, then A, B, C, and D, then A, B, C, then A, B, okay. Then finally, I want to print which one? A. Now just try to do this so that tomorrow we'll see working with the break continue, and tomorrow I'll start working with the collections. There is nothing but list, set, and all those data types which are very important. Okay, just try to complete this so that working with the list and other things becomes very easy for you, right? So today we'll stop it here, and tomorrow we'll start collections. Okay, thank you. We'll see tomorrow. Right.